Hello, I'm Theresa Kulikowski-Gillespie. I'm a certified mindfulness meditation teacher and a functional medicine physician assistant. And yesterday, I had the pleasure of reconnecting with one of my friends from the University of Utah, Tracy Summer Stannard. She and I actually didn't compete at the U together. We kind of overlapped, but I remember going on a recruiting trip and meeting her, and her energy and who she was one of the reasons that I wanted to actually go to the University of Utah. So we got to connect yesterday. She is a high performance mental health consultant, and she runs Aspire Performance. And we are now an hour away from each other. I'm in West Point, New York, and she's in New Jersey. And so we were talking yesterday about our different approaches to working with our patient populations. And she's primarily working with athletes right now. And I've wanted to work more with athletes given my background as a high-level gymnast. And then after my gymnastics career, I was really into CrossFit and hiking and really high intensity exercise before I got ill. So I'm really excited to talk about how functional medicine can benefit athletic performance. And again, I always use the phrase hindsight is 2020 because there are so many things that I would have done differently as an athlete because I was always injured, and I think I could have been a much better gymnast had I nourished myself the way that I should have, maybe worked a little bit more on the mental performance piece earlier on in my career, and just really taken better care of myself. And so with functional medicine, we often use the phrase test, don't guess. And I'm not a huge proponent of testing every lab out there and spending a whole lot of money if it's not necessary. But I do believe that there is a lot of information that can be gained from appropriate testing. Sometimes it involves blood work. We maybe look at inflammatory markers such as a C-reactive protein or ferritin levels. We look at complete blood counts, metabolic panels. We look at nutrients such as vitamin D, B12, folate. We can even get into things like magnesium and zinc and copper. There are a lot of different things that we can test just in the blood. And then within functional medicine, we have a whole other repertoire of things that we can test, such as a stool test to look at the gut microbiome. And this is important because so many of our key nutrients are made by our gut bacteria. We may not think about that. We may not realize that, but our gut bacteria basically produce what we're taking in a multivitamin. So if our gut health is appropriate, if it's balanced, if it's healthy, then we oftentimes don't need to take all these supplements that cost money and that take time to do every day. If our gut is in good health and we're nourishing it with good fibers and nutrients, then it's going to make the nutrients that we need for optimal performance. So that's a really important thing that we look at in functional medicine for athletes. I'm not sure how many athletes out there are actually getting a stool sample. It's not the most fun test to collect, obviously, but it gives us a wealth of information. It can also tell us whether we're digesting our food appropriately. It can tell us if we have infections such as parasites or, certain bacteria that maybe are wreaking havoc on our health or zapping some of our energy. So a stool sample is really important, and I would encourage, most athletes, if they're really wanting to optimize performance, to get a stool test. Oftentimes, a functional medicine provider can order that for you. If people are dealing with hormonal imbalances, there's also another test that we can do that looks at both salivary cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and then we can look at metabolites of that cortisol in the urine, along with a lot of our sex hormones like progesterone and estrogen and testosterone and DHEA. So these are they offer a wealth of information. And maybe people are feeling okay, but they're feeling like, I'm just not performing at my peak. Well, why don't we look a little more deeply and maybe do some testing? Then what I do is I don't just treat a lab, because a lab, there's a norm. We do have these normal ranges, but sometimes people fall outside of those norms. And what's optimal for one person may not actually be within that normal range. So I look at labs, I take that into context, and then I look at the person and say, does this make sense? Does this add up? And then how can we intervene to optimize both health and performance? So I'm looking at this from the physiologic standpoint. And then you have individuals like Tracy who are amazing working at mental skills and optimizing performance from that perspective. So together, it really puts together this holistic approach, which is really what's necessary for anybody to reach their potential in their sport. So if you want to learn more, if you're interested in working together, please reach out to me. My website is FitIntuit, so fit-intuit.com. And you can also find me on Kestrel Wellness, KESTRELWELLNESS.com. Thanks so much. Have a great day.